So I arrived here 10 years ago, and when I got to our zoo, they were the bulls were more or less left as breeders, and they weren't overly interacted with. Their training wasn't high for them, and so you could see that they needed an education. They needed to be interactive with the people that worked here, and so we started really pushing and toward that as a goal, like doing things with the bulls. He desires to kind of hang out where the people are, and so he's very tractable in that way. He's easy to train, and so about 6 years ago, I think, Zulala was wanting to know if we would do an elephant painting for them. And right prior to that, we had been doing TB testing. TB testing, we have to put saline in their trunk, and then they raise their trunk up, and the saline goes down. And it's all controlled. They hand you back their trunk, and then you have to have them blow on command. So I got him to blow the saline pretty easily. He was very quick to learn. I started having him blow at things, like I would put water in his beak and shoot it at the guest out front or whatever. And that pretty well worked. It extinguished the negative blowing. Well, at the same time, I also had a little boy named Parrish, and so he was getting to be of the age where he wanted to start finger painting. So I brought him a bunch of finger paints, and the way it worked at our house was you just put down a lot of paper and let him just go nuts, and that's what he did. Well, one day I went to answer the phone, and when I came back in, he had turned up a bottle of that stuff, and so I thought that I'd killed him or whatever. So I called the people at Animal Control. And I mean that, not animal control. I should have called them. I called the people at the Poison Control Center. And they said, well, get the bottle. And so I read it to them. Oh, no, that's egg-based. It's temperate. It's made out of eggs and chalk. And it has some dye-type things, but usually it's child safe. I lived in the northwest side of town. And so what I had noticed was everywhere I went, there were pictures of Packy and Rosie. And I said, wow, this town really loves elephants. And then at the same time, First Thursdays would roll around, and I saw all these art galleries with all this different art in them, and families standing there like a generation, a grandfather down to the grandchild and everybody in between, standing there arguing the points of whether something was a nice piece of art or not. And so I went, put that, I didn't really think about it, but I kind of put it on a shelf somewhere. So with all his blowing, and with my new discovered information about temper paint, I said, I wonder what it would be like if you loaded temper paint instead of water in his beak. I wonder, first of all, would he tolerate it? Would that be all right? And second of all, what it would look like. Yeah. So I got a piece of cardboard. I still have it, the cardboard, but they red and black, and I shot at it twice. And when I saw it, I went, oh, yeah. So this is something cool. So then Zulala had a deal, and they were asking us, did any of our elephants paint? Well, none of them had learned to paint. Any one of them could. And so here you got old Rama, and he's an animal that he got knocked in the moat as a kid, so he's got a hurt arm, so he can't really get around very well. He's not very exciting as far as it goes because of his physical condition. And so I started thinking to myself, I wonder could I teach him to make a painting? And so we did. And we made the first painting was probably a little bit larger than this. And so at Zulala, it sold for $1,300. So then I really said, oh, now I wonder. So my next thing was I said, I wonder if I could get a First Thursday opening in the Pearl District with one of them. And most of them they weren't rude, but they were like, you got to be kidding me, bro. It takes 3 years to get in here, and like that. And but we found this one guy named Mark Woolley, and he happened to have one of the older galleries, and he was also a fan of outsider art. And how much further outside can you get? And so he allowed, not for a First Thursday opening, but for an opening where a First Thursday's people's stuff came off. And about the second week or the third week of the month, a 3-day show in the Mark Woolley Gallery. And so, it was really my expectation was how cool to see the paintings up on clean walls of an art gallery. That was my only expectation. And so, bulls. What I didn't know at first, and what I found out during this process, was that Rama was an extraordinary fellow. Unlike most elephants that I know, and which aren't that many, but the ones I know, they will do what you want as long as you pay them for doing it, and then very quickly, a few minutes in, they're looking to go do something else. Well, because maybe of his injuries, and who knows exactly what, his mother, maybe, no telling. But for whatever reason, Rama is different than most. Rama looks directly at you when you're talking to him, and he reaches out, like he tries to help you figure out what I can't teach him. He's right there on the edge, on the other side, trying to get to himself, and can't really explain it. He has a tractability extraordinaire, and everyone who knows him believes that about him. And that an elephant like Rama can live a significant life inside the fences, and not just significant because he's selling art, significant in how he is. And so I decided that what I was going to do is keep working with this until I could ever increasingly expand the circle of understanding around who he is. And from there till now, Rama is here in our town fairly household. I mean, in other words, many people know who this elephant is. And it's like we've discovered together, because I do everything I can to help him make a good painting. A lot of people paint with elephants, and I think they do it when they're painting with an elephant. In this country particularly, what we mainly do is we're doing it for the activity for the animal, the interaction around training. They're learning. If they're learning, we expect that they're expanding their horizons. And that's pretty much it. And maybe those paintings get sold at auctions, and maybe someone spends money on them. But with me, having been educated in some small way around art, I decided right from the very beginning that I would put the finest of everything at it and see what happened on top of that. Canvases, the paint, everything. Like, I'm a stickler for doing it well. And some 600 times since then, we've stepped up to a canvas together. And in all of that time, his interest hasn't flickered. Because if he wanted to do something else, we would pick something else. I'm not sold on, it's not a mandatory situation for him. I mean, because it's really a play session. And so one of these days, my expectation is he's going to reach out and eat a canvas. And at that point, we'll decide together. Because he's a successful artist, right, in the realm. He's raised over $100,000. So he's successful in some way, but the fact is he would eat any one of them left alone with it. He has no function. Art has no function for him. So, and we know that. And so the art part isn't what sells the paintings, but though we do sell many paintings to people who haven't seen it, it's not the art, it's the process. And when people see it happen, then they're like, oh my, I didn't realize that could happen. I had no idea that an animal and humans could relate on that kind of level. And I'm in awe of him, and I feel like he is a treasure that needs to be understood by the other folks. And so that's what the project has become. Staff, help, and we put out a series of paintings. And these paintings go wherever they are, some of them as far as DC, Europe, or whatever. And then when people go into that person's home and they look up there, that person says, you know who painted that? Rama. And let me tell you about elephants in captivity. And then, so with these commissions, I spend a bit of time with people and I explain this to them. And I have every faith that when they leave here, they're part of Rama's herd. And when they, as part of Rama's herd, they're spinning seeds of hope. And what is the hope? The hope is that elephants, for me, don't go extinct.